Yeah. Look at the hair on that page. And I don't know where it comes from. But it is a sign of 8 hours old.
I know, I saw when you sent an email last week, and there was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, see, I don't know what hers will do.
Are we doing by what? Yeah. Or am I with Zoom now?
Look at the hair on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. She's got a little brother. He hates her. He's like, "Now?" He's almost 2. Yeah, this is her dad on the first day. Yeah, and that's fine. And I have
Okay, so.
Down in South Jordan, she said that if
I
every
don't know if
anti-city
Steve
bill that's before the
texted me and wanted
legislature
to know
passes, that's there.
if we
this
could have it
year,
in the gym
they
because he
won't
was concerned about Christmas.
be- It'll be a mess. Because they're talking about.
They're getting ready to wrap
You know,
up.
let people do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I told him I had
They
M95s
don't come over and buy.
But, you know, the thing that I don't get is, you know, because it's really hard,
So.
you know, I'm sure it would be here too, but it's hard
I'm
down,
done
you
with
know,
it.
Solid County to get.
So it might not be a very long meeting.
If you're
No, I
pro
don't,
high
yeah, I didn't
density
think it would be.
development,
So.
you can't be elected.
And then I think
and
he
yet-
sent you guys,
But if the
I
legislature
just made
takes
a,
all
I
that
put a
ability
copy of it
away
in
from the
there of
city,
the.
you're sitting there
The
all
only
saying,
thing I
no,
did
there's
notice
apartment
is it's
building
got
next
the
to
wrong,
you.
it's got
You're
the
gonna call the
head
city
on
and
there
go,
instead of
we're gonna go, talk to your legislator.
Oh.
Well, who?
on the back, but I don't know if he knows, but I put a copy of
You know,
it just in case you guys
What,
didn't look at
what they,
it.
Okay.
they're gonna immune to, you know, the same thing the city, but they blame the city councils, they're like, these city councils, they don't understand, we need this high density zone. Well, they're gonna do that.
So we may have to just do your own.
Oh, I like,
Have to do
oh,
yours.
I'm so glad that you did
I've
this.
heard that it doesn't have
Yeah,
a
so,
Senate
just so you
sponsor.
guys could have it.
Yeah.
You'll have to change the name on the last one,
It's
though.
zipped out of.
Or just reprint that last
committee,
page
and,
that's.
you know,
That's
it goes to
okay.
committee, and then they say, okay, go ahead and put it out. And it went through the House, but it doesn't have a,
Jeff, I need some
a Senate
food.
sponsor yet. So without a Senate sponsor, it won't go before the Senate, so hard to say what. I hope not.
Okay.
So it looks like your chair and vice chair are not here, so you guys need to elect a chair for the evening.
Go for it, Michelle.
You're in the captain's seat. You have seniority.
I just didn't want to sit down there.
And then we hit record here.
Okay, Brian, you just walk me through this.
You got it.
So I just call the meeting to order?
Call the meeting to order, and then let's have a quick,
Okay, if I'm doing this,
Vote
then
on-
you guys are doing the pledge of
we
allegiance
actually
and
need
the
to
prayer.
vote on the chair, so you make the nomination. So you ready?
Yeah, okay, grab my-
Scott, make the nomination. 50 seconds.
So the oath of office for the new members, just these two, right?
Yeah, Scott will be as a regular member, Vicki as an alternate.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I just didn't have my.
Who was our other alternate?
Huh?
Who's our other alternate?
The other
We've only
alternate?
seen him once.
The Hinman.
Hinman.
Oh.
Oh, he's moving.
So I don't need to come all the time?
I heard his wife took a
I
jet back
don't
east, so they're
have to
moving.
come
Oh, really?
to
Okay. Well, I guess we'll be
every,
replacing
okay,
him.
It's more if we don't have somebody.
okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we make Michelle Montier the chairman tonight.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So.
Okay,
I'll hurry
so
and say
we'll-
the prayer. Give Scott a break. Our kind and gracious Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful for the opportunity we have to live in this great country and this great town, and that we can have the ability to plan our town the way we want it to see it happen. And we're thankful for that opportunity. And we ask that you bless all those that protect us, and bless the officers and families of those in Provo that had the shooting incident today, that they can be watched over, and ask you to help all those that serve the people in this town, that keep it safe and keep the facilities running. We say this in Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen. Okay, pledge of allegiance. Okay, Scott.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Oath of office for the
Oath
new
of
members.
office, so Scott will be sworn in as a regular member and Vicki as an alternate.
Okay, and then say,
You just read a little bit and then he'll repeat it.
I,
Aye. Scott Keller.
Say- When you do it, say, I state your name.
well, I did, and he just like looked at me. Just give me the salute. Well, you told me to read a little bit, but I said, I gave you your name, and then, okay, I state your name,
I, Scott Keller,
having been appointed to the office of,
having been appointed to the office of
what is it, the planning commission,
planning
planning
commission
commission member,
member,
do solemnly swear that I will support,
do solemnly swear that I will support,
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Utah,
and the Constitution of the state of Utah,
and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Okay.
Thank you.
You sign for
Okay.
me. Okay,
You do.
well, I did, and then he just kind of like.
That's why I just, I state your name. And then sometimes he'll be smart, I'll say, I state your name. And then she'll just be planning commission member alternate.
Okay, all right.
Oh,
It's your turn.
Me too, huh?
Yes, did you listen to?
Just repeat what I said.
No, I, Vicki Keller,
I,
saying,
Vicki Keller,
having been appointed to the office of Planning Commission Alternative,
having been commissioned to the office of planning alternative,
do solemnly swear that I will support,
do solemnly swear that I will support,
obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
obey, and
defend,
defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Utah,
and the Constitution of the state of Utah,
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
and I will discharge my office of
The
the
duties.
duties of my office with fidelity.
Perfect. All right, and then just sign there.
John Doe, huh?
Right there.
She told me tonight, she said, I haven't been sworn in yet.
She has now.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
Okay. Did we, did you guys have a chance to look at the minutes?
I did. I
Okay.
looked at them and I make a motion that we accept them.
Okay, I second them.
I did fix it. I don't know why he did that, because did you when I printed it out, and then when
I
I
saw
looked
that.
back when it was in the file, it was like,
I second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
And you
Is,
just read that statement.
okay, public comment, you want me to read that? Okay, this is the time and place for any person who wishes to comment on items not scheduled on the agenda for public hearing. Any person or group wishing to comment on any item not otherwise scheduled for public hearing on the agenda may address the planning commission at this point by standing and giving his or her name for the record. Comments should be limited to not more than 3 minutes unless additional time is authorized by the governing body.
Now, ask if there's anybody that wants to make.
Does anyone have any comments that they want to make right now?
There will be
Okay.
time during the public hearing to comment on the item that's on the agenda. It's
Yeah.
just for other items.
Okay, so the next item is the public hearing regarding the proposed ordinance change for C1 commercial zone of the Charleston Town Land Use Ordinance.
And I'll start out and introduce that
Okay,
before we have the vote.
okay,
And then you can, so basically, what's before you is, as it says, Cam Brown is the petitioner, so he's asked the town to reconsider, the C1 zone currently does not allow, self-storage units or commercial storage units. When the commercial zone was rewritten, the planning commission had a fear that that's the only thing we would get in the commercial zone, because they seem to do well and they're very popular, and so they chose to prohibit those. The planning commission recommended that, and the town board passed it. And so, anyway, so there's various ways, Cam, has asked that they've got some property that they would like to maybe do this with. They came through here, what's it been, almost a year ago? And got the zoning on this, on a piece of property rezoned. And I'm gonna back up real quick here, so I want everybody to remember that what we're talking about tonight is a change to the zoning ordinance. This does not in any way give Cam approval for what he wants to do.
okay.
It's really great that he has some examples for you to look at, kind of so you can vision what might happen. But he would still have to come back if this was approved by the town, and what your job tonight is, as it says in the staff report, you can either approve it as written, you can make changes to it, or you can say no to the town board. We reject this idea. We recommend that you not do it. They can still, it still needs to go to them at some point, or you could table it for some good reason. You need more information on this or that. It wouldn't be more information on what Cam is going to do. It would be more information generally on zoning. So, back to actually, so what we're here talking about is, there's different ways. You could just say, okay, it's a permitted use. And that would mean, okay, it's allowed anywhere in the commercial zone. You can say, well, it's a conditional use. Well, conditional uses are tricky because the word conditional kind of makes you think that, well, we can not approve this because it's not a permitted use, it's a conditional use. But the way the courts have ruled on conditional uses and the way the state law is set up is pretty much you have to approve it. It's just a use that we're saying this is okay in this zone, but what we might need to put some conditions on it. And I'll get into that a little more for this particular subject when we talk about it. But it's something like, say you got a car wash and you say, well, it's kind of close to neighbors. We don't want it to run past 10 o'clock at night. Yet, generally we don't have a time limit for businesses to run in our commercial zone. But this car wash, we want to not have the neighbors bothered after 10 o'clock. So we can, those kind of, it would be very rare that you could find something so heinous that you couldn't come up with a condition to fix that problem. And they have to be reasonable conditions. You can't do stuff like, well, we want it painted purple, or we want whatever, we want you to build the building upside down. I mean, some ridiculous thing that it's got to be a reasonable condition that is related to a problem that could bother neighbors. So that's how conditional and permitted use it.
So, as I, you know, as we talked about this, as I talked about this with, the mayor and some others, I said, well, there is another way to handle uses, and I've described that in the staff report, and this is actually how, I work for South Jordan full-time, and this is how we handle storage units, these self-storage units. So we actually, and we have several zones that allow them, so in each zone it's kind of written this way. But what we've done is we've taken the number of acres, and you'll see that in the staff report, that I've looked at the number of acres of the Deer Creek storage and the number of acres for the Copper Top storage, based on what's on the county website, and then added this particular property, and that's where this would include what Cam is doing, is because by writing this ordinance, we're saying we're gonna include that many acres. But that means that's all we ever have to allow, ever. Now, if somebody else came in, and so the way, why we do this as such ordinance, there's a lot of times, you know, we'll go, we don't want to have them just allowed anywhere, but then somebody will come in and say, well, we want to put storage in this little spot here, and we go, oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. So then we'll do a text amendment similar to this, but all we really do, rather than rewriting the whole thing, which was done, you know, at one time, we just changed the number of acres to include that particular spot. And then, you know, we've never had a developer not come in and do the storage units. But if they were to, if they say, oh, we've changed our mind, we might go back and change it back to the old acreage, you know. And so we don't just leave it hanging out there. And so, anyway, as Cam and I talked, and as, you know, I've talked with others, you know, the mayor, we had a little bit of a discussion in the staff reports last council meeting. We kind of report on what's happening in the, you know, at the planning commission. We talked a little bit about this, and, you know, and it's not, you know, it's not foregone that the town board is gonna pass this, you know, but I think this, in my opinion, this is the safest way to do what Cam wants us to do. And so like I said, you know, basically, I put in here kind of the standard of review. I put that in all the staff reports. This is kind of said, this is just general of what your authority is, what the town council authority is under state law. Generally, if I have like a subdivision, you'll notice that it'll have our own ordinance in there so you can read, but since we're changing the ordinance, I just put what the state is. And so, there would be, so the Deer Creek storage is 3.24 acres, Copper Stop's 2.34 acres, and the proposed property is 5.69 acres, and so that would be like 11.27, so I rounded it to 11.5, just to make it easier. So the proposed ordinance, what I've done is I've made it a conditional use in this ordinance. I've added it to the conditional uses that already exist. It's number 12. So you'll see the first thing that does in the ordinance is it strikes out in the section that it says prohibited uses, it takes that commercial storage out of there. So we have to remove that from prohibited uses, and added it to either a permitted or a conditional use. So I've added it to the conditional use section in number 12. So it says in there, it says self-storage facilities under the following conditions, a maximum of 11.5 acres of self-storage facilities, total acres of self-storage facilities allowed in the C1 zone. And I'm gonna grab some.
Self-storage facilities, I see right here.
I had a little accident, had my face sewn back together about a month ago. Had my lips sewn back together, and it's still pretty raw. And when I get talking, it rubs on my teeth and it sticks, so apologize. Anyway, so let's see here. Yeah, you never thought fly fishing could. And I did not catch my lips.
Oh, no storage is allowed
I
outside.
fell on ice.
Ooh.
But anyway, I wasn't ice fishing, I was fly fishing. So, anyway, so we've got back to 12A, maximum of 11.5 total acres of self-storage allowed in the C1 zone. B, the proposed self-storage facility is at least 2 acres, but no more than 6 acres. I put that in there just you know, we wouldn't want to, you know, somebody coming in and saying, oh, well, I got this little 1/4 acre lot and I want to put self-storage
Yeah.
by my house or something, even though it's maybe rezoned commercial or something, so. But maybe you don't like that, I don't know. Anything you don't like, so. I put, no storage is allowed outside of the enclosed buildings. The perimeter landscape requirements and site obscuring fencing for self-storage facilities shall be determined with the conditional use permit application of the planning commission and recommended to the town council for final approval. So that gives you a little bit of leeway to say, okay, there needs to be perimeter fence, site obscure fencing, there needs to be landscaping, but you can kind of discuss it by the site so that it makes sense. And then I just put in here, because depending on where you're at, you may want to put some time operation, you know. And remember, we're not talking about the Brown property, we're talking about in general when we write this ordinance.
Yeah.
So if somebody were to come in another place and you said, yeah, that makes some sense, and maybe it makes sense for the Brown property, I don't know. But anyway, you can say the time of operation restrictions may be imposed as part of the conditional use approval and other reasonable conditions as deemed necessary, so by the site. So this would allow you to tailor it to the site, limit it to a fixed number of acres, expand that if you ever wanted to. And then, you know, and I had one housekeeping item in here, in the ordinance. I noticed when I was going through that we still refer to premises occupations. Why it's in the commercial zone, I have no idea. But we did away with premises occupations, and so it just made sense to strike that out of there. So that's what's in the other part of the ordinance. So I think what would be proper now, Michelle, is to have a public hearing.
Okay.
And then we can turn the time over to Cam if you have, or if you have questions for me or Cam or whatever. Like I say, but, and it's okay to talk about what he's proposing just to get it in your mind, but that's not what we're voting on tonight.
So
we're
tonight,
voting-
we're just voting on
We're
whether.
voting on this ordinance, that's before you.
Yes.
And then if this passes, if the town board passes it, then he would come back in, you know,
Okay.
with site plan, all the site plan, drainage plans, you know, have an engineer figure out, you know, what's gonna happen to all the runoff, all of that stuff, just like we did with, you know, the copper dot buildings and whatever the other one's called, the other big one. Anyway.
Yeah, I know what you're-
So, and it would be the same thing, they'd come in, show us all that, the engineer would review the technical stuff, I would review, make sure it meets the ordinance, that the driveways meet, you know, the specs, all those things that are, you know, any parking, any other things like that that are not specific to this, plus this. We'd review all that, bring it back to the planning commission, have a public hearing, and then it would be 2 items on the agenda, really. It would be a conditional use permit and a site plan approval. And those can be done at the same time, you know.
So-
You don't have to have the conditional use permit and then the site plan approval.
Okay.
You want to see the site plan before you give the conditional use. So go ahead.
So, all right, well, let's just open it up
So
then.
we'll open up for a public hearing.
Okay, we'll open it up for a public hearing. Does anyone want to make any comments? No. Cam, do you want to?
I have a question. Alan, did you ever talk with Alan Larson?
I texted him, but haven't,
Didn't hear from him.
yeah, he texted me back.
And that would be more of a question from, you know, when we go to this conditional use permit kind of thing, yeah.
Okay,
Like I say, this is, you know, this is the ordinance in general. The only thing specific to their property is we're adding their acreage. But that does not guarantee approval, it doesn't guarantee, you know, that night somebody else, you know, they could come, you know, with reasons that, like I said, that
Okay.
they have to be pretty substantial. But
okay.
What is the change on the existing to this new ordinance, Brian?
there was no acreage before, so this
This
creates.
outlines like up to 12 acres.
Yeah, it creates, so what I did was I took, to start a base, I took the 2 existing storage facilities, took their acreages, and then since Cam is the petitioner, it only makes sense to add his property to it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I say, even if the town board doesn't pass this, it doesn't matter, it can't happen.
So it just sets a max of 12 acres that they can be, and if for some reason somebody thinks there needs to be more down the road, they can look
They
at
can
doing it.
petition to have more,
Storage is allowed outside.
to increase, yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, it kind of keeps a little bit of a lid on it, so you don't just see like the whole, all 189 proliferating with.
Just all storage units.
Because any, you know, because if you just allowed it as a permitted use, or even just a conditional use with no maximums on the acreage, anybody that had property could come in and say, here, I meet your requirements, approve you.
Yeah,
We pretty
12
well have-
acres is a pretty good chunk, I think. I mean, I don't think it's a bad change, so.
Yeah, I just, the maximum of 11.5 total acres, when I look at these other ones, I mean, they're pretty good size. I mean, they appear to be,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, you have 11 and a half acres,
Michelle?
What?
Until the public hearing's over.
oh, what's,
You-
oh, I
you'll have
can't.
your turn.
Oh, I can't, okay, so I can't make my comment yet, sorry, okay, I'm still in training. Okay. Any other comments?
I think it sounds good. I wanna give a shout out to Brian for keeping us all in line here.
Yeah, I know,
I
he's,
always appreciate sitting here watching Brian give direction to the town and.
Watch him do
I think
his
we should
thing.
give him a raise, so.
Bossy
Throw that out
Brian,
there.
huh? We'll bless you.
okay, so we'll close the,
Yeah, if nobody else wants to.
no, we'll close the public, comment, and we'll
Now you can start asking
Okay.
questions.
So the maximum, when I think of the maximum of 11 and a half acres, that just to me seems like such a huge chunk. So we could make that smaller, right?
Sure.
I don't even know if, I mean, 7 acres seems to be big, because that's gonna be more than double. I mean, the Deer Creek storage, are you familiar with where?
I'm not, I don't know where Deer Creek storage is.
It's right by Bingley, it's that, it's where Kimball Roofing has his truck sitting there sideways
there's a
along the
Bingley
road.
entrance.
Okay.
And they've
So-
got, and that's one of the, you know, if you look at that, that's, you know, not to belittle that project, but
Right.
it's not the most aesthetic project in the world. You've got open storage right up against the thing, no side obscuring fences. The other one's a little nicer, but you still have all that open storage along the fence. So that's some of the things that, you know, that you may, you know, considering that some of the stuff that, you know, Cam even brought up when he talked to you last week, you
Yeah.
know, when we were just asking in general about, you know, them wanting to fence things off and not wanting outside storage.
So,
Some places allow it, but behind side obscuring fences, and that could be another thing you could, if you so chose, you could say that no storage is allowed, or outside storage must be, you know, blocked by, or behind a side obscuring fence.
but we wouldn't do that right now.
You could,
Yeah, we could.
yeah, you can make changes to this if you want.
I think no outside storage is better.
I don't know if I mind outside storage, because I just would not want it to, I wouldn't wanna see it, you know what I
The
mean?
two we have though, you see both of those.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important that we really put some time into, I'm not against the storage units, I don't think it's a bad location if we're gonna have more storage units. I think it, you know, makes sense that it be there. But I have a problem with the acreage. I think that's a lot of acres, you know, for one.
And we just added what their property is, and you can ask them if,
Isn't it 7 acres?
It's actually, he said 5 point,
what it says on the county side is 5.69.
yeah, I think that's what it is, I think that's what the
And
tax
if-
is.
And I know you said, well, maybe we don't wanna do the whole thing in storage, I mean, what,
Well, so here's the issue. If we do, you know, reduce the acreage, then we're gonna have a portion of that land that will have nothing on it. So what do we put on it? It's zone commercial, we will put something on there. And so, and whatever that might be, I mean, as I look through, because I don't wanna come back for something else and get a condition, so I'd rather just put something on there that is already allowed, that's already allowed by the ordinance. So, you know, do we want a marketing firm, do we want, you know, it'd be a perfect place for a boat mechanic, which is allowed. Is that what we want on that land? Do we want a gas station or stuff like that? Pawn shops, smoke, cigarette stores, off-premise beer retailer. That's not really what I would want to put there. But if we don't allow the whole piece of that land, then we have to fill it with something, right? I mean, I guess it wouldn't do us any good, and it wouldn't do the town any good. The tax base would be smaller, you wouldn't receive as much money from the tax base. And it would just look funky as far as I'm concerned. It would, you know, all of these things that we have, I don't think it's any secret that, I mean, you guys all know what we want to do. We're not trying to hide anything. All these conditional uses that Brian put in there, well, not all of them, but the two main ones, no outside storage and a perimeter fence to make sure that it looks good, that was straight from me and Dad. We didn't come to you and say, you know, what's gonna make it, you know, what are you guys gonna, or what do we have to do to make sure you guys pass it? That's not how it was. This is our idea. So this is
And
what
that was
we're.
brought up
So I think as
last
far
month
as
with,
us just talking about it,
Right.
and that's why I put them in there. And
Yeah.
I thought it was a good idea, and it was something that they already,
Yeah.
because really, you know, the way this is, I mean, I worked with Cam a lot, and you know, I wrote it, but it's really Cam's proposal. It's not my proposal. I just was there to try to help figure out the best way I could think of to make it work for the town and work with Cam. But quite honestly, he has the right to propose anything he wants, and of course, then you have the right to accept that or not, and in your recommendation to the town board, and then they have the right to accept it as you recommend it or make changes, so.
Well, we kinda felt like we wanted to, I mean, we got the property next to it, you know, we wanted to make it look good. And we don't, frankly, I don't like the outside storage, you know, you see it, so we're for getting it, undercover and no outside storage, and we frankly would like to keep it as low as we could, and the highway's right there, you know, so.
Okay,
They're
so,
not tall buildings generally, you know, storage units aren't.
Okay.
Sometimes you could, you know, sometimes you could do like a boat storage in a big building that would be allowed, and that might have a little.
and that's what,
leverage.
I mean, they're already doing that.
But we have
Okay.
height limits.
Perhaps.
Yeah,
Perhaps.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry, what was you?
I was just thinking that if it's contained and if it's labeled, then you don't have people putting junk and leaving it and moving to another state, and then you can't locate them, you can't do anything, and there it's stuck. So I really like their idea.
And I was thinking as well, if we do lessen the acreage, we only have one entrance, and that's off 3,000.
That's good.
So we would have to come off of 3,000, and obviously we want for people to see it, we want to put sheds along the road, and it's good to keep it off of 3,000. So we want to keep. So what you would have is you'd have sheds, and it's kind of hard to.
You can show them your pictures.
Right. So basically.
probably have an office on 3,000, won't you?
We do. So the office would be right. So the office would be right here as you come up. This is going east.
That's 3,000, yeah.
Yeah, this is going towards Heber. So you'd come in here. If we did just a few acres, then we'd probably have to cut it right along there, which leaves all this area to where there'd be another entrance to another building or whatever it is that we're allowed to. So it'd be ideal for us, you know, if we could just beautify this whole thing and make it hidden, keep it down low.
Personally, I think they're doing a great job. If they hide, you know, everything, all this is nice and contained. And
That's what they.
Yeah.
Well, one other
It's gonna
thing
be
I was
a
gonna
great
say too,
project.
that I do, and
Well, just
we know,
in the story.
we know how these roads are, okay?
If you had a.
This is a preliminary, we backing this
If you had
thing
another
off as far as I'm
business, we don't
concerned.
need-
Yeah, because I mean,
We
someday
wanna-
they may widen that road.
Yeah, we wanna get it back off.
Yeah.
We can see that one coming.
Sure.
So we, you know, it gives us a chance, yeah, you know, we're not gonna be crowding the road up.
Yeah.
Then they're,
That only
And I like your plan. I definitely, the maximum of 11.5 total
You're just
acres for
looking at the
self-storage,
acreage.
I would much rather we reduce this. I don't want someone putting
But
12
if you
acres.
look at their ground, you know, how would you,
But they don't have quite 6 acres, right? Is that right, Cam?
What's that?
Do you- 5 point some acres, that's what you
Well,
want to
6
develop?
point something.
Yes, but the 11 acres includes Deer Creek and
Right.
2 more already existing.
It's the total of
It's
all
the
three.
total of the
Yeah.
two
The total of
existing
all the
and
businesses
their
there.
property. So it's not 12 acres of new storage units.
Oh, okay, so that's why, that's what I didn't understand.
Oh, okay.
So,
No,
I'm
it
like,
includes.
I'm like,
it
wait a
includes
minute,
what we
I-
already have, plus another, you know, and.
okay, so there would be a total of 11.5 acres in Charleston.
And once this is approved,
There's no
there
more.
would be no more unless we change the ordinance.
Okay,
And it'd have to go in a commercial zone.
And it would have to be in a commercial zone, yeah.
yeah. Did you have another question?
I think Brian answered it. We were
Okay.
just talking.
He was curious about how this no outside storage would affect other uses, and I said, the no outside is specifically for
Yeah.
the self-storage units. There's other sections of the C1 code that talk about outside storage for businesses and how it has to be behind, how it has to be behind the site obscuring fence and different things, but, so it wouldn't affect any other use. This number 12 is inclusive.
Okay.
All of the A through F is inclusive of the self-storage.
Storage. Perimeter landscape
If
required.
you
storage
provided,
is-
if they provided outside storage, I think that was another question for my boats and RVs, that had to be a different ordinance.
So Brian,
This would prohibit that.
so the way that's written, we're talking about no outside storage on this new one, right?
Yeah, the other two were grandfathered in because they were there before we even wrote the new commercial ordinance.
Okay, well,
It would be an upgrade, yeah. I mean, I think
I
it
mean,
is.
Yes,
I
it
don't wanna
would.
see any more
I
Kindle
don't-
trucks
no.
along the
I agree.
highway.
That's,
We don't need any more advertising along the road.
yeah.
Unless there's a phone number on the one.
Unless it's for hay sale.
Yeah.
So what are you
Yeah,
thinking?
hey,
What are you guys thinking?
So I would be in favor of it personally.
Okay, so should we call a vote? I'm in favor of the way Brian wrote this also.
Right, I think
it's-
Brian did a great job, and I
Yeah.
appreciate him helping us do this, so.
Yeah,
So,
so you just make a motion. So
Okay.
basically, if you look at the staff report, I've written out 3 motions,
yep,
so you can just read whichever one you so choose. One motion is to approve it as written, one would be to approve it with modifications, you'd have to state the modifications.
so are
The third one would
these,
be to recommend a denial.
so do I need to state what you wrote in here?
Whoever makes the
Whoever makes-
motion can just read, they don't need to read the whole thing, they just need to read whichever motion. If you're going to approve it as is, it would be the first one,
As you wrote it,
as I wrote it.
uh-huh,
Or you can do it your own way,
okay,
that's just a recommendation.
yep.
I believe in the Pirates Code, you know, it's just
Well, I would like to make a recommendation,
make a
or
motion.
make a motion that
Now read it.
okay, that the planning commission recommend to the town council that Mr. Brown's proposed text amendment ordinance as,
No, you're in the wrong page, sweet.
Is it this section?
It's
right
the
here?
very front page of the staff report, sorry.
oh, this one right here, okay, all
just
right.
reading that one too, just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
was
the
like,
very
I'm
first
like, this
page.
isn't making any sense, Brian.
Good thing you caught that.
When she said Mr. Brown, I thought, I can't imagine I put that in there.
Okay, so
So
let
now
me,
does it make more sense? that-
Yes, okay.
It says motion ready, so there was 3 options
Yes.
to choose from. Or
So-
you can do any other motion you want. It's your-
okay, we can do
your
some
game.
crazy one too. With those 4 that aren't here would be like, what the heck did you guys do? Okay, so it's number 1, to be adopted as submitted. So it's number 1 that I'll read that one then. So I would like to make a motion that the planning commission recommends to the town council that ordinance 2021-01 be adopted as submitted. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Awesome.
Okay.
So we'll be back to see how we can.
Well, we gotta get it through the town board.
Gotta get the town board to
Yeah.
approve that, and then you'll come in with your drawings and.
Yeah, you guys, now the homework really starts.
Now the brain power.
So there's no reason to spend a lot of money on it unless, you know, you've got a
Yeah.
shot at it, so.
So,
By the time you figure all that groundwater, where it's gonna go and all this stuff, you're gonna be into a little money for
Well,
engineering.
that's why that catch basin there, I mean, this is Charleston.
Yeah.
You bring Deer Creek up here and run it through it, but, no, it'll be all science, you know, it'll tell us what we need to do. And actually, we wanna make that, there where that catch basin is look good too, because
Sure.
we
Sure.
wanna put something in.
Yeah, you don't wanna devalue your
No,
property.
absolutely.
okay, well, will we call an adjournment then?
Just call a meeting adjourned.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys, appreciate you
For all your hard work.
doing your homework
No
and
problem, we
coming up with a good project.
appreciate the questions, Rose.
One thing that's really nice is that because you guys have grown up in Charleston, that I feel that you have that, you wanna make it,
Yeah, I really don't want to turn it into developer.
yeah, exactly, you don't wanna turn it into a dump, and I like the fact that you guys live right by it, so.
What's that?
Didn't I already know all that? In the last one? Okay.
Did he say volunteer?
For something.
Well,
He said
maybe
he'd
be on this
volunteer.
board.
I
You
don't
gonna
know.
be on
Yeah, I
the
didn't
board?
figure it would be too long today, there wasn't a whole lot, so.
Um,
Okay.
Karen, did the other ones say, is that shut off? Huh?
The B-roll is the best part of the meeting.
You know, I wasn't really.
What's
excited
that?
about storage units until they started talking about this.
Did the other ones say that they were gonna be here?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna go.
Did everyone say they were gonna be here?
Well, Steve, he was worried about
Yeah.
being too close quarters. I told Corey's pissed off, so it's probably why he didn't come.
He's pissed off because of why?
Brenda wouldn't,
Oh, Steve?
Corey,
Corey's mad because of why?
he's looking at the surplus truck.
He's what?
Wants to buy the surplus truck for sale. This, the old detail down here. But he wanted Brenda to let him hook his.
Okay, I can't hear you because they're, so he wants to buy. Oh.
You pull up, plug.
What's this?
What's that little button right there? Maybe not.
So how many people were watching tonight?
5,
5?
yeah, 5 entire time.
Okay.
Last week we had 17.
Yeah.
We weren't very popular today.
Darn it.
That's okay.
My big debut.
As boss lady.
I really could care less about being boss lady, one more thing.